Examination hall of the Galactic Institute stretched impossibly wide, curving into distances that defied ordinary perception. Its crystalline walls shimmered with refracted starlight, echoing the nervous energy of more than 3,000 aspiring cadets gathered from every corner of known space. Every being in that hall shared the same fear. At the front of the hall stood Proctor Velzar, a towering Corinthian with obsidian scales, 3 razor-sharp horns, and 3 cold, analytical eyes that scanned the room with equal parts judgment and disappointment. His voice, deep and resonant, boomed through the chamber's translation matrix. Attention, applicants. Before you lies the theoretical impossibility assessment. In 5 centuries, no candidate has ever solved a single question completely. This exam exists not to be passed, but to measure how you confront what cannot be solved. A ripple of anxiety traveled through the crowd. Tentacles twitched, proboscises curled. Crystalline bodies dimmed their bioluminescence in collective dread. But somewhere in row 47, seat 2847, one candidate sat unusually calm. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, age 23, the first human ever accepted into the Institute's Advanced Tactical Program. He adjusted his collar and flashed an easy grin. Humans had only recently joined the galactic community, and he'd heard wild rumors about the impossible exam the whole trip from Earth. Velzar raised a clawed hand. You will have 6 standard hours. Begin. At once, holographic interfaces flickered to life before every cadet. Jake scanned the first question, and his grin widened. The problem was a tactical scenario built with 17 simultaneous variables, layered with quantum probability matrices, and, most importantly, embedded with a deliberate logical paradox. The question contradicted its own starting conditions. Jake had seen worse on a Thursday. Earth was not like other worlds. Other species had evolved on stable planets with predictable physics. Earth was a death world, a place of chaotic weather, relentless disasters, predators, diseases, wars, and threats that made no rational sense. Humans had survived only by doing the impossible over and over again, until impossible simply meant try harder. Jake twirled his stylus and got to work. The key wasn't solving the paradox. It was treating the paradox itself as the limitation you could exploit. So he flipped the assumptions, inverted the scenario, and applied a technique his game theory professor had once called aggressive lateral reconfiguration. 3 minutes later, he solved question 1. The exam ramped up in absurdity. Question 4 involved orbital mechanics that shouldn't exist. Question 7 demanded solving for variables that mathematically could not coexist. Question 12 was written in a dead language, describing technology that broke causality itself. Jake approached each question the same way he approached his grandmother's infamous crossword puzzles, the one she designed specifically to frustrate his grandfather during weekly game nights. You didn't fight the logic. You looked for the joke hiding inside it. At the 6-minute mark, Jake completed question 15. Across the hall, Velzar's central eye twitched violently. His neural implants were monitoring every cadet's progress, and one human's answer rate was setting off system error alerts. Impossible, Velzar muttered. The algorithms must be malfunctioning. Jake raised his hand casually. The proctor teleported to him instantly, appearing in a burst of crimson light. Yes, Candidate Morrison, Velzar growled. I'm finished, Jake said cheerfully. Could I maybe get another exam? Something actually challenging? A silence so deep it felt physical swept across the hall. 3,000 beings, heads, sensory clusters, pseudopods, turned toward the human in shock. Velzar's scales darkened to the color of a dying star. That is impossible, he said. You cannot have finished. Want me to show my work? Jake offered. He pulled up the answers. For question 1, I treated the paradox as a boundary condition. For question 2, you reverse entropy if you stop assuming time moves linearly. which it doesn't near a black hole. Question 3. Enough, Velzar thundered. He snatched the display with trembling claws. Every answer was correct. Impossibly correct. Brilliantly correct. Embarrassingly correct. How? Velzar whispered. These questions were designed to have no solutions. Jake shrugged. They have solutions. You just have to think like a human. Velzar leaned in. Explain. Well, Jake said, humans come from a planet that tries to kill us daily. Earthquakes, hurricanes, predators, diseases, other humans, you name it. So we got really good at finding solutions where none should exist. We call it thinking outside the box. Except humans kind of demolished the box and built a spaceship out of the parts. Velzar's translator struggled with the metaphor. But question 12 references technology that cannot exist within known physics, Velzar insisted. Sure, Jake said, but if you assume it creates its own physics bubble, like our FTL drives, everything balances. You guys get hung up on what's impossible. Humans? We just try it anyway. A tiny crystalline student in the front row raised a delicate tentacle. Proctor, did the human just solve the unsolvable exam? Velzar looked at the human, then at his shattered pride, then at 5 centuries of tradition destroyed in 7 minutes. Yes, he said quietly. Yes, he did. Jake leaned back, hands behind his head. So, about that extra credit. By the end of the day, the Galactic Institute had a crisis. The legendary theoretical impossibility assessment was obsolete. They renamed it the Human Baseline Aptitude Test. Back on Earth, Jake's grandmother sat at her kitchen table, creating another devious crossword puzzle, completely unaware that her Thursday brain teasers had just revolutionized galactic education. Because humans were the species that looked at the impossibility of flight and built airplanes, looked at the impossibility of space travel and built rockets, survived on a death world designed to wipe them out, and thrived anyway. For humans, impossible was just another challenge. Lieutenant Jake Morrison left the exam hall with the highest score in Institute history, a recommendation for immediate advancement, and 17 alien species, begging him for lessons in human thinking. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth already knew. Impossible just means no one has solved it yet.